The court hereby orders that the minor child Jane be committed to the care and custody of the Department of Children and Families for a period not to exceed 12 months.
Each year, thousands of children are removed from abusive homes, and an attorney is appointed to represent them. Then the child waits for that attorney to ask what they want and to explain what's going on. The child rarely enters the very courtroom where his fate will be decided. His only link to the future, his lawyer.
I haven't even seen my attorney, heard from him, spoken to him, seen him at all.
I don't even talk to my lawyer, so I ain't gonna trust my lawyer when I see him.
And every time I tried to get a hold of her, when I needed her, she wasn't there.
Sadly, the majority of children tell this same story, and they ask the same question: who will speak for me? Over the next few minutes, you'll hear from children who've been abused in their homes and removed, only to be failed again by lawyers who don't find out what the children really want and need. The attorney is the single common thread holding the whole process together for the child. Yet children continue to report that their attorney is just not there for them. Listen to them as they explain in their own words what they want from their lawyers. Let's learn from these young voices.
You see your lawyer still?
Every now and then.
Like every month?
My DCF worker coming up, hopefully the 21st.
I haven't seen mine in a long time. I only saw him once. That was when I was 8, and that's the only time I saw him.
All rise. Those who represent the child and his or her parents come together at court hearings like this one. Almost a dozen adults take their seats to decide what's best for the child, a child not usually present in the courtroom. It's the attorney's responsibility to make that child come alive during the hearing.
It could make so much of a difference in the life of a child if the attorney comes in and lets you know exactly what that child is feeling, all right? Lets you know what that child wants.
Judge Carmen Lopez presides over Connecticut's Superior Court of Juvenile Matters in Waterbury.
Certainly, out of what everyone tells you, you want to hear what the attorney is telling you, and you want to make sure, as I said to you earlier, that it's information that is current, that is not old information, so that you can actually make the best decision.
Judge Lopez expects children's attorneys to come to court with fresh information, having met with their clients long enough and recently enough to be able to speak for them. But she knows there are plenty of attorneys who don't bother to meet with their child clients or get to know them. This leaves the child with painful questions about the future.
I think that I'm going to be here probably till I'm 18, and I'll still be in DCF custody, and I won't be home with any of my family, and probably still the lawyer won't even come see me then either.
Actually, like, if I'm gonna really leave at June 22nd, because my childcare worker who works here, she's saying that I might leave June 22nd or June 24th. And I don't know about that. She's saying that she doesn't know yet.
Unfortunately, many other children have the same concerns. Meet Maria. She's 15 years old and has been in the custody of the Connecticut Department of Children and Families, or DCF, for 2 years. We talked to her at her room at Connecticut's Children's Place, a residential facility run by the state. Maria's had lawyers in her life since she was 4, and she recalls a particularly bad experience.
My mom or me had to call him to get his attention or to, like, get him to even see us or visit us on a daily basis. But he was pretty much, he ignored me kind of.
Maria wishes another of her attorneys would have made an attempt to develop a closer relationship with her.
I really didn't trust her, and I didn't know her, and she really wasn't like a confidant to talk to and stuff like that. So it was kind of uncomfortable to like not be close to your lawyer, because that's the person who has to like figure everything out for you and who has to stick up for you on the legal side.
It's a very critical, important role that that person plays. And given the state of affairs in many child welfare agencies, many times it's the attorney who has followed the child around.
The attorney is often the only stable adult advocate in a child's life. Caseworkers change and children are moved from foster home to foster home as court proceedings carry on without them. So the attorney plays a critical role as the one adult who remains constant in a time of turmoil. 14-year-old Gabriel has lived in 10 places since being removed from his home at the age of 8.
After I came from home, I went to a residential, and then I went to like 3 more residentials out of that, and then I started going to like foster homes. And at the foster homes, I came here, and then I left. Then I came here again.
The longest time 15-year-old Aurea spent at one place was 9 months.
I went to Janice's house in Bridgeport. I came here, Connecticut Children's Place. Then I went to New Hope Manor in Manchester. I went to New Haven Detention, Hartford Detention, Hamden, JFS. Then I went to Douglas House in New Haven, and then Forbes House in New Haven, and then I came back here.
It is quite a challenge for the attorney to handle this situation in a positive way. He or she must also overcome barriers such as age, race, culture, and sometimes language, as well as the child's disorientation and trauma after being moved. Howard Davidson is the director of the American Bar Association's Center on Children and the Law. Davidson says a good lawyer will develop skills in child development or know other experts he can rely on. He or she needs to be a good communicator and a good listener. And the lawyer should know he or she can have a serious impact on each child client.
The fact that a child may not get adequate legal representation can result in a child not getting properly evaluated, a child not getting the right kind of educational services, the right kind of mental health services, and can result in a child who has a lot of problems that the system unfortunately ignores.
When asked about interactions with their attorneys, many children bring up the same key point. Their attorney isn't listening. Eva is 17 and has been in DCF custody since she was 10.
I had a female lawyer, I don't know her name, and all I can remember was she used to call and speak to my aunt, but I never met her in person. I never spoke to her through the phone. It was just talk to my guardian, that was all.
In this case, the attorney was making phone calls, but failed to actually talk to her client in person. So how did she ever get to know her well enough to speak for her in court? A child relies on the attorney to explain what's going on in court in terms he or she can understand.
If they don't tell you what's going on with you, you're lost. I'm lost right now because I don't know what's going on with my lawyer and everything because she hasn't called me yet.
Oh. Rachel is 14 years old and living at Connecticut's Children's Place. She's been a DCF child since she was 3 months old and was adopted at 4. She's had several attorneys. We asked her to describe the role of the attorney and how it's different from the role of the social worker.
A social worker works on your personal life, a lawyer works on your mental life, or a social worker works on your mental life, a lawyer works on your personal life, and a guardian ad litem, I don't know.
Rachel's confusion is common. Children like her need an attorney who will explain the roles of the many adults trying to help them through the child welfare system. The attorney also has to explain the time it takes for such a case to move through the court system, which can take more than a year. Imagine how hard it is for a child to wait that long, living with strangers in a foster home after suffering the trauma of abuse and neglect.
It's been 2 years, and to me it's felt like 10. If it's hard. It's really hard. It's hard to wait a long time to see your father.
It's sort of a little scary, you know what I mean? Because you don't know what's going to happen, how long you're going to be in their custody. Never know when you're going to go home.
What else are you going to put on it?
Martha Stone is the executive director of the Center for Children's Advocacy at the University of Connecticut School of Law. She thinks more attorneys should focus on respecting a child's unique sense of time, as well as becoming more aggressive advocates for their child clients.
It's really important work of representing children that needs to be taken much more seriously and needs to be done in a much more aggressive way. And that the excuses that are being used for poor legal representation, such as low payment and not enough time and too many cases, I understand from a real practical point of view, from the attorney's point of view, but the child doesn't understand it.
It sort of makes me feel a little down because sometimes I really need to be talked to him, and it's not the time for me to be like asking for that thing because he's busy, he got a lot of cases and things like that.
I tell my mother sometimes that my lawyer needs to come up here and see me because, you know, I have things that I need to talk to him that you can't always talk to your DCF or to staff about.
Makes me feel really angry and just ticked off, you know what I mean? And I don't even know what he looks like. I haven't got to talk to him at all.
Jeremy hasn't seen his attorney since coming into DCF custody 4 months ago. It's clear that he and children like him feel they don't have a voice.
I feel like the kids fall through the cracks of the different systems that they come into contact with, whether it be the judicial system or the education system or the child welfare system. And then when they're given an advocate, a legal advocate, to help them not fall through the cracks, that very legal advocate system is faulty. So once again, they become victimized.
The children and those who care for them are sending a clear message. Solutions need to be identified and implemented. One of the most important steps is providing lawyers with more frequent and improved training, and to ensure that they attend.
We would not permit someone to operate on, to conduct a medical operation on someone without rigorous training. Okay? We should not expect an attorney to be appointed to represent a child and to begin to practice in the juvenile court without undergoing a rigid prerequisite training program.
In addition to better training for attorneys, Davidson presents this list of other improvements, some of which are already being tried. They include setting limits on maximum caseloads, creating statewide offices to support, coordinate, and enhance child representation, mandating a certification process for attorneys doing this work, developing attorney mentoring programs to support novice children's lawyers, and finally, restructuring attorney payment mechanisms. This last item, low pay, has long been used as an excuse for poor legal representation for children, an excuse that doesn't sit well with many in the field.
Just because you're getting paid an amount of money that you may not believe compensates you, all right, that doesn't excuse you from not being a professional. I mean, the word professional means something. It means we finish the job, and it means we do it right. And that's my understanding of being a professional. You work Sundays, you work Saturdays, you do whatever you need to do to get the job done. Otherwise, then you sign up for something else. You don't do this.
The children want to add another item to the list of improvements. They want more opportunities to speak for themselves in court. Aggressive legal advocates can make that happen by appealing to the judge for the children to be heard in court. These young people feel they could influence their own future by speaking for themselves.
I like to speak my mind, you know what I'm saying? I like to say how I feel and tell the judge what I think should happen and how I've been doing. So I think that maybe if I went to court on the abuse and neglect side, I might have told him how I felt and who I wanted to be with, and maybe that would have persuaded him or her to get me back with whoever I want to live with.
Over the past several minutes, we've targeted the problems in the child welfare system and offered solutions. We've listened to children describe their negative experiences. But we should also listen to children who tell us about attorneys who cared, provided true legal support, and became real friends.
My lawyer climbed a tree to talk to me.
Daryl's attorney did not take no for an answer when he was being shy. She went the extra mile to talk to him and his sister, Diane.
She does a lot of kid stuff even though she's a grown-up, and she'll do whatever we'll do.
Their attorney visited them once a month, getting to know the kids and the rest of the family.
Made me feel good because I'd be able to think about what I was going to talk to her about, what I was feeling during that month.
She became part of the family. I mean, she talked to all of us. She got to know my older children. She got to know everything about us before she made a decision of even having these kids placed in our home through adoption.
Roseanne is Daryl and Diane's adoptive mother and was adopted herself. She's fostered 12 children and says the majority of them have not had good legal representation.
Well, when kids don't have that, unless they have a good rapport with their foster parents, they really don't have very many places to go. And you build a lot of that inside. I think you're going to run into a very large problem when they're older, or even right at that very time.
When young people talk about positive experiences with their lawyers, they bring up similar themes. Their attorneys spent time with them, listened to their concerns, and told them the truth.
She's really honest with me. Like, if something's gonna happen, she would tell me straight out. She wouldn't, like, hide it from me and then let it happen.
My lawyer's always been honest with me from the beginning. They always tell me what could go wrong and what's the good news. And they never tell me things that I want to hear. They tell me what is going on around me and what could happen.
Like Eva and Oria, all the young people we interviewed spoke from the heart. They're trying to live normal lives, trying to get back with their families. We thank them for sharing their stories, their sadness, and their hope. But before we go, they have something to say to you, attorneys who represent children. Please listen carefully to what they have to say.
Just because we're kids, we don't have to be ignored, you know. Give us as much as important as you would give, you know, an adult, you know, like somebody you're really getting paid for.
It's very important to be there and explain every detail that you need to explain. Take the time. Even though you don't have time, make time, because that's very important, because if you do that, you're showing your client that you really care and you're willing to take the time to get to know him or her.
So I think that lawyers should, like, be a little bit more trustworthy and caring, so the people, or, you know, the people that are seeing them would like to talk to them about their problems more, and they'd be helped out more.
They have to listen to what the kids want to say to the judge, and they have to listen to what their feelings.
Listen to kids because they all have something special to say.